All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular meeting, May 18th, 2022, of the North Augusta Planning Commission. Would like to, again, thank you all for joining us. We are going live in Facebook land, as always. And so as such, please, if you come to the microphone, and I will remind you, please be sure to share your name and address. That includes for all applicants as well as members of the community who choose to comment. And if we could please have, well, before we start roll call, would like to welcome Commissioner Elliott to his first meeting and thank him for joining us on the Planning Commission as well. So commissioners, if you could please start with roll call.
Joanne Mackey.
Rhett Harbison.
Bob Bigger.
Jesse Elliott.
And I am your chair, Christine Crawford. All right. So if we could, the next item of business is the approval of minutes from the April 20th, 2022 meeting. If I could please have a motion.
Second.
All those in favor of accepting the minutes from the April 20th meeting, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. All right, Mr. Paradise, who would like to confirm the agenda? Are there any changes or additions to be made?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So first up is application RZT 22-01, and it is a request by the City of North Augusta for a text amendment to allow murals and public art in the P Public Use District. This request affects section 13.8.3, signage allowed for non-residential districts and uses of the North Augusta Development Code. At this time, we will open it up for the public hearing. So if there are any members from the community who wish to share their concerns or thoughts about this text amendment, please come forward. Again, please give your name and address in the microphone, and we'd ask that you keep your comments to a couple of minutes just so that we can allow as many members from the community to share their thoughts as possible. Okay. So at this time, again, we're opening up for public hearing on this text amendment. Okay. Assuming that there are, this is one other community member. Again, I just want to make sure, since we've had a couple people join us, are there any members from the community who would like to participate in the public hearing of the text amendment for public murals and public art? Okay. There being none, we will close the public hearing portion of this application, and commissioners would like to hear your thoughts or considerations that you all would like for us to take for this text amendment change. All right. That being said, one thing that we did, just very briefly, I would like to recommend that it be the North Augusta, in section I, where it says public art may be installed in the P Public Use District after review and approval by the North Augusta Mural Design Review Board. Would like to maybe add the language or other regulatory body, just so that is if this evolves, if they make a name change, because they're also doing public art, that we won't have to make this amendment again. So.
Dr. Crawford,
Yes.
would you mind if we added or other regulatory body that may be assigned that responsibility by council?
That's perfect. Thank you. That being, that edit being made, any other questions or comments? If there is none, I'd entertain a motion for a recommendation to City Council on this text amendment at this time.
Since you've so eloquently placed the wordage, I say so moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor of the recommendation for the text amendment regarding public art and murals, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, it has been carried unanimously. All right. So next, we are in consideration of application ANX 22-001, a request by Adams Brothers Properties, represented by the Prather Company, to annex 43.9 acres located on Martintown Road. The property is requested to be zoned R7, small lot, single-family residential. At this time, Mr. Paradise, is there anything that you would like to share with us about this request and application?
Yes, ma'am. A few months back, y'all may remember this parcel came before the Planning Commission with R7 and R10 requests for zoning. Prior to the annexation being completed, the developer found that a large portion of this property was wetlands, and what they were proposing to do would not fit because of the wetlands. They redesigned it and instead of amending the request that council were coming back, they wanted to come back and start the process and go through the public hearings through council and get y'all's recommendation as well. This parcel is contiguous to Oak Creek. The sewer tie-in would be adjacent to Oak Creek. They need to come into the city for the sewer and to obtain city services. And then this would be the layout of the parcels. It's 157 single-family attached homes. They did go before the Board of Zoning Appeals. They requested R7 zoning and needed a variance for lot widths because the lot width in an R7 is 40 feet. They did receive a variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals contingent upon them being annexed into the city within a year to allow some 22-foot wide lots and some 26-foot wide lots. And that's kind of where this project is at. They're requesting annexation.
Are there any questions for Mr. Paradise with regards to this application? All right. There being none, what we will, let me explain the process here. What we'd like to do is have the applicant come forward and share anything that they would like for us to know with regards to this application. When the applicant is finished, we will then open it up for a public comment. We would ask, again, the members of the community who want to share their thoughts, keep their comments to a couple of minutes so that we can accommodate as many people as possible. And any questions that you have for the applicant, we will ask that once all public comments have been made, that the applicant come back to the podium to answer those questions. And at that time, the commission will discuss as well. Okay. All right, so that being said, if the applicant for this could please come forward and again state your name and address. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Bobby Bagwell. I'm with the Prather Company. My address is 6566 Reservoir Road, Abilene, Georgia. I represent Mr. Adams as the broker and developer for this project, and I'm also working hand in hand with Stanley Martin Homes on this project here with Luke Boatwright. And so, as Mr. Tommy described, the details of this project, we've been working on this for some time, and just want everyone to know we have been very cognizant of the environmental conditions here. That's the reason that we did the wetland study to maximize use of the property and realized that at this point in time, we're only utilizing about 50% of the acreage that we on this track. We also strongly believe this is a much-needed project in North Augusta. We do believe it meets the comprehensive growth plan for North Augusta. And feel very, very excited about bringing this to North Augusta.
Thank you, Mr. Boatwright. Did you have anything there?
Luke Boatwright. My address is 987 Rocky Fall Lane, Irmo, South Carolina, 29063. I just wouldn't want to come up so I could answer any questions from the public.
Yes,
All right.
we'd be glad to answer any questions y'all may have at this time as well.
So Commissioners, do you all have any questions for the applicants at this time?
What's the square footage?
They're going to start in the 1,500 range and they'll go up to 2,500.
Have you developed a price point yet
I-
in this crazy market?
It's a moving target at this point. I think you're going to be anywhere from the currently low twos to mid, and we'll see where the market goes. This is a good year from coming to fruition, and I think at that point, if this would be built today, it'd be in the low twos to mid twos. We'll see how the market is when it opens up in 12 to 18 months.
All right. If there's nothing else that you all will share, then we'll ask the public to have any questions, propose any questions for you all, and then ask you to come back up. Okay,
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. Are there any members from the community that have questions for the applicant at this point, or comments? So what we'll do is we'll get you so we'll take this first gentleman, and then we'll get you a microphone. Okay? But we'll need you again to say your name and, okay, thank you.
My name is Glenn Baranowski, 1410 West Martintown Road. I'm one of the few people that live very close to this property. Been living there all my life except for college and a couple of years. I appreciate the opportunity to share my opposition not only with this project but with this particular request for R7. So I appreciate this. I did appear before the Board of Zoning Appeals and share these concerns. So I likewise thank you for letting me do that here. I think this is a bad idea for me, for my property values. I think it's bad for the area. I think it's bad for North Augusta because I realize your primary interest is in decreased tax revenue. Their primary interest is to make money. Neither one of those are my interest. My interests are the community. You're going to put 157 lots, according to the Board of Zoning Appeal, 45 of which are 26 in width, 33 of which are 22 in width, and I may have my number slightly off. 58% of the property is buildable. It's not a great piece of property to build on. You're going to have, what, 350 to 400 cars coming out of a single entry exit point across from a working farm on and near a curve. And as Mr. Paradise alluded to in the Board of Zoning Appeals, it's highly unlikely that the South Carolina Department of Transportation would put a red light there, right? So I'm concerned for traffic. I'm concerned for safety. I don't believe acceleration, deacceleration lane is going to solve all those problems if you require the developer to do that, because a tremendous amount of exits going to try to come out of this subdivision, turn left to go toward town, and I think it's both dangerous and I think the congestion is not properly understood or studied. Secondly, with townhomes, honestly, it's just going to be more of a transient environment, okay? Not pleasing to me, not who I would choose to be neighbors with if I had a choice, and nothing against that. I realize you're in the business of development and annexation. I would say, who is going to want to live next to or across from 157 townhomes if they had the option to do something else? I really think you're limiting the vision for this particular area, especially if you want it to be a gateway area. Lastly, I don't think it's the kind of transformational change that's needed, and I realize development is inevitable. So I realize I'm not arguing against development. I realize that would be the future, but it's like, what is the vision? What is the strategy? What is the proper development for a piece of property that's not great to be built on? I've lived there, across the street from there, over 50 years. I could have walked that property in 10 minutes and told you there was wetlands, and you weren't going to be able to develop the whole thing, okay? So it's not rocket science. So I would just tell you, I appreciate the opportunity to just tell you I'm in opposition to it. I'm in opposition to the R7, and you've given me a chance to express those concerns, and I thank you for that. And I would just appeal to you to think about the transformational change a development like this is going to make in that area vis-a-vis what could be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baranowski. Did you have any questions for the applicant? Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Barbara Sweeney. I live at 79 Shoals Way Court in Savannah Barony. It's difficult from the numbers that you talked about and this map. I can't read where this is. Where is this? I know, but where off Martintown Road? I'm sorry?
So he's going to show on the map, and Mr.
There's Gregory Lake Road. And you see the parcel there that's being annexed.
Okay, so it's at the intersection of Martintown and Gregory Lake? Past that, okay. I'm sorry, I just couldn't read the names of the streets. Didn't know where it was.
Gotcha.
All right, are there any other questions with regards to this application? If so, sir, can you come either to the mic or ask for the mic to be brought to you if you're unable? So I need you again, sir, because we got, it's a public hearing, and so we need your neighbors to know who you are and name and to be able to hear you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Joe Miano.
Okay,
I live at 286 Riverwind Drive
okay.
in the Savannah Barony area. So I don't know where it is still because we're new here. So where is I-20? Where is Old Plantation Road? I couldn't read from up there. Could you just point it out for me, please?
So, yeah, please, because I'm not a visual.
I'll take a shot at describing this for you. So if you're coming out of your neighborhood and crossing I-20, going up towards the lake, towards Edgefield, there's a stoplight at the bottom of the hill now that they just put at the end of Bergen Road.
Road.
Thank you for that. The gas station on your right, the next road on your right is Gregory Lake Road. Go a little bit farther, a couple hundred yards, there's a new Dollar General or something that they put on the right, veterinary health services that's on the right, and this property is kind of just up behind that.
Okay, so when we come out each morning onto Martintown from Old Plantation Road, turning right to go into town, that's a very treacherous turn, I have to say. And I wasn't sure what the gentleman before me was talking about. I thought he was talking about the same route we take each morning, but that is a tough turn to make, and we've been almost clipped several times. And it's a hill going down to, I don't know if you're familiar, but it's going down past where the fireworks are. It goes down, and it's tough to make that turn. And I just want to echo what the gentleman before said. It's tough already, and now with, I don't know, 300 cars, he said, it's going to be even tougher. So.
Right. Yeah, okay, the property you're concerned about is next on our agenda. The one that we're looking at on the map here is half a mile down the road on the other side of I-20.
Am I ahead of myself?
You are, yes, sir, just a little bit.
I apologize. Just blame it on us being new.
Understand.
No, that's fine. All right. All right, so, again, any other questions for the applicant with regards to annexation ANX 22-001, request for Adams Brothers property at the 43.9 acres located on Martintown Road. Okay, the subsequent one is the one that's off Old Plantation Road for clarification. Okay. All right. All right, no other public comments. All right, so commissioners, if you all have any questions, any other comments or questions for the applicants, please share at this point.
I have one question. So I know that you had set this up for the condos. Did you look?
Come again?
I know what you've set this up for as you have it drawn now.
Yes, ma'am.
But did you look at maybe doing homes, larger homes, less of these, but bigger?
The original plan, we had that. Yeah, I mean, anyone can walk on that property and understand there's wetlands. That's easy to do by the eye. There's a process of where those wetlands actually extend that a study has to take place. And when we receive that study back is when we receive the information of exactly where those boundaries are, which led us to having to eliminate what we did and make this proposal become available. As Mr. Paradise, I think, mentioned in the public planning session earlier, North Augusta zoning is, there's a gap. And we did not want to go for R5, which would have properly allowed this zoning, because that includes apartments. That's not something that Stanley Martin Homes is interested in doing. We don't do apartments. And we wanted to come in with our best foot forward of exactly what we're requesting. And that's why we went through the BZA to get what we needed to make the deal work for our venture, to get the site plan that we have in. The single-family homes that we would have put in would not have been a much different square footage than what you see today. We brought in a larger townhome to be able to accommodate that and still work with the numbers that we need to be a viable project.
Something I'd like to add that actually got brought up during the public comment was the traffic study. We realize that's going to be part of the preliminary plat approval process, so we're prepared to engage in that once we kind of get a little bit further down the road, and we know that's going to be a requirement. So whatever recommendations are generated by that traffic study, we'll implement into our final plan.
Okay, you look like you do.
All right.
Any other questions, comments, commissioners? Several of you all look like something's right there, but not quite. Okay.
I'll make a comment. I tend to agree with the development being higher density than what we would typically see in this area. If you look at comprehensive master plan, it calls for low impact development there, not low density.
Yeah.
Low density housing, I don't know that 160 units on 40 acres is low density. It does open up on the Martintown Road, so I can see it going both ways there.
I think the other, the way the current Edgefield zoning is you could become more dense than what this is currently, if my memory serves from previous meetings we've had.
But you wouldn't have utilities to
Correct.
be able to do it, so it's not feasible.
Yeah, so that net density based on the 43 acres, I think is 3.48 units an acre gross. R7 zone.
How does that relate with R10?
I don't know, offhand. I forget how many square feet's in an acre.
43,560.
43, a 10,000 square foot lot, that would be 10, or that would be 4, so.
The overall plan, like we were 3.6, we're not far off.
If you look on one page in here, on page 4, it talks about that the city of North Augusta and all their plans for comprehensive plans are encouraging different housing and mixed in with other areas. And so I think it's going to be a battle for everybody to figure out what to do. I know that our family just sold a piece of property to someone from Augusta, and they've come in and they're going to do houses, patio homes, condos, and it's all mixed. And, you know, everyone is really kind of uncomfortable with all of it, but
That, I mean, if this happened to be a 200 or 300 acre site, that would be what you would see as a mixed use. It's
Right.
what most builders are moving to.
right.
People moving, you build a nice community that people can move in at an entry price point, and they end up staying in the same community as they move up.
Yeah, so they just kind of move around it.
Yeah, move up, move down, whatever the situation
Right.
requires.
Right. But all of these are two-story, right?
Yes, ma'am.
That kind of limits who's moving up. So-
There are some master downs, so have that
Right.
opportunity.
And the other thing that I was discussing, I think I was discussing with him, that most of the land that's left on Martintown Road area is wetlands. Wetlands is wet. Everybody's got wetlands everywhere now.
Yes, ma'am.
Everything that's left is pretty much wet.
There's not a lot, oh, yeah, that's, yes, ma'am, you're right.
Just a quick comment, first to acknowledge Mr. Baranowski's concerns. I do agree that this, is putting a lot of houses on a dangerous curve. If I've tried to, my veterinary services are just right down the road from there, and traffic comes over that hill and around that corner pretty fast. And as the developers, I do kind of wish that there were fewer units planned there because of that. Obviously, if you're going to do a traffic study, that some of that may be come up, for address. But on one hand, I appreciate you doing what you can to stay as far away as you can from the wetlands that are there, and understand your balance of trying to maximize the value in the property and so forth. But just concerned that, right, 157 units and 300 cars trying to come out of there is a big concern of mine.
Well, our traffic study is actually already underway. We're doing it well in advance of anything that Mr. Paradise will see.
So how long before that gets revealed?
Engineer's not been able to give me a timeline. We just signed proposals somewhat recently. As you can ask any engineer that comes through here, they're all pretty busy right now.
I would have to say that the engineer that they've hired to do this job has met with the city engineer and me as far as the scope of the study. And he submitted another traffic study today that was much more intense than this, that I'm sure he's been tied up on for the past 3 or 4 weeks. But we have met with, just so you know, we have met with him as far as moving that forward.
And as we mentioned earlier, right, or was kind of alluded to, of the 300 cars coming out of this neighborhood, 299 of them are turning left across a lane of traffic or whatever. There's very few cars that are going to be going out to Edgefield from there, based on where this is and access to the interstate or whatever. So that it's kind of a unique versus the next property where we're starting on, coming out of Plantation Road, where cars will be going both directions or whatever a little bit. This one's kind of unique based on where it's located. So that's just my concerns.
So what was the deal about no red light? Somebody said that wasn't going to happen.
I think the general understanding of what's required for a red light, 300 houses don't hit that. DOT's got to tell you that you're allowed to have a red light, and red lights are you have to have a pretty high trip count. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what it is. My engineer here is not a traffic engineer, but it's municipalities fight this all over the state of South Carolina trying to get red lights, and the DOT requires that, and this is not going to meet that threshold.
I would tend to agree with that, but that would be the traffic impact analysis will give us the engineering and the numbers on that, and a estimate on the trip generation. But I would not expect to see a traffic light out of that study recommended.
That was one of our topics in the joint meeting with City Council. And the individual that was leading the meeting was discussing with us that South Carolina has, DOT has standards, and they're not going to vary those standards based on the litigious society in which we live in. And so we went on to say that as planners that we try to get ahead of it, and that would be a whole lot of work as far as trying to get ahead on what streets will be able to handle what traffic and what we can do. So also wanted to say, as far as an opinion, I would want North Augusta to stay sleepy, and I've got a large lot that I live on, in which everybody could live on a acre lot and have a nice little picket fence. We live in a society that the market does have a say, and in the market having a say, you can see all over the area. You can see in Grovetown, you can see in Columbia County, some of these areas that are industrial have townhouses going up. So I wish we could control it, and I wish we could do what I like, but we got set before us standards that we're trying to follow to make sure that we're even-handed in how we plan the city going forward. So, would I like larger lots? Yeah. But if you have a stretch of land that's been sitting there and growth has been going out to that area, it becomes more and more valuable. And you have to have someone that has the girth or the will and the money to put some type of development. So we're going to have to, everything that we do as a commission, we're going to have to compromise. And so we're not going to be able to get all we want. The developers are not going to be able to get all they want. And what we want to do and how we feel is not going to, we're not going to move into the political realm more so than what standards do we have in making a good decision. So that's kind of my 2 cents on the matter.
All right, so if there are no other questions for the applicant, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, commissioners, are there any other, you all have shared a lot. Are there any other concerns or things that you all want to share before we, if I get a motion? Or how we proceed?
I will entertain the motion. In regards to application ANX22-001, a recommendation that 43.9 acres located on Martintown Road, a recommendation to City Council for approval.
Do I have a second? I remember correctly, I need a second so that even if we vote it down, it's still, so that we can, a second does not imply that you are voting for it. A second only means that we will move forward with the vote.
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, thank you. All right. So it's been moved and seconded. Any further conversation?
So this is dependent on the traffic study, right?
No. The traffic study is not involved in this at this time,
The annexation.
in the annexation. The traffic study would come when they come back before you with a preliminary plat.
Okay. All right.
So this vote, again, just to clarify, is only for the annexation, or the recommendation of annexation to City Council. To R7, correct. It's annexation to R7, and previously they had some R10s, but because of the wetland study, they've had to reconfigure it so that it is all, at this point, R7, which is why they are back before us. Is that not correct? Way to summarize
That
it?
is correct, Madam Chairman.
So it has been moved and seconded. Any other conversation? Okay. All right. So, Commissioners, all those in favor of the annexation of this application and the recommendation for the annexation being in an R7, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Nay. Okay. So
I need to find, who voted how?
okay, all those who voted in favor, please raise your hand so that Ms. Paradise can see.
Okay.
Okay, all opposed?
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, thank you. So next, we are going to application CONPL 22-02, and this is a request by CSRA Development Company for a sketch plan review of a proposed plan development to be known as Moore's Bluff. This will consist of 4 light industrial commercial lots and up to 180 townhomes on 68.73 acres off of Old Plantation Road, zoned PD planned development. So, assuming based on the participation on the last 2 that most of you all are here for this particular application, would just like to review with everyone, and Mr. Paradise, correct me if I'm wrong, this is a sketch plan review. So the point of this is for us to give feedback to the applicant and director about concerns that we have, things that we would like to see, things that we may as commissioners feel that it's not in keeping with the plans of the city. This is also an opportunity for the community to share their concerns for the applicant as well. And because clearly you all have some concerns and questions for the applicant, just will ask that you keep your comments brief so that we can accommodate as many of your neighbors and fellow members of the community as possible. So sometimes if need be, and we can kind of see once the applicant presents, what we do is give, say, 20 minutes for comments, or 30 minutes for the community to share. Again, asking you to make room for your neighbors as well. And then if somebody has made your point, we understand that you all are here and see you, and so not necessarily the need to make the same point. And again, want to make sure that the developers have an opportunity to answer any questions or respond to what may be a new question. So want to make time for that. Okay. All right. So Mr. Paradise, is there anything that you would like to share about this application with us?
Yes, ma'am. This application, get it up there for you there. Okay, the subject parcel, about 68 acres, I believe it is. And it goes from what we would normally refer to as frontage road over to, or will connect to Plantation Drive. And it is currently zoned planned development. So the applicant is going to need to submit a general development plan to the Planning Commission and be approved by City Council in order for this to go forward. A planned development requires both residential and a commercial component to it because of state law and rulings from the state Supreme Court. This gives you an idea of how it would be laid out in the topography. You have 4 lots there at the end of frontage road, and then you would have the subdivision with townhomes that would come out on Old Plantation Road. I like this one a little bit better, maybe because it's in color. But there's a few things that I want to make sure that the commission is aware of. In talking, and it may change, but it's my understanding that the applicant, one, his intent is to access the 4 parcels that would be used for light industrial, and by light industrial, that would probably be warehousing and storage. You can ask the applicant, go more in detail there if you'd like. But the street right-of-way would stop where frontage road ends now, and access to parcels 1, 2, 3, and 4 would be through a cross-access easement. In other words, only parcel 1 would have any street frontage. This is a question that we have as far as extending frontage road down so they all have frontage, and the land on the other side of it does not become landlocked, and we can get a proper cul-de-sac and turn around and access to those lots there. The other issue that is of concern from the planning staff, and in your packet, we included a copy of the Martintown Roads Corridor Study. And that study consideration figure L3, one of the recommendations for that study was to develop a parallel road to the west side of West Martintown Road that provides access to River Falls Apartments and Circle K and connects to Old Plantation Road and eventually to the new signal at Knobcone Avenue that's also included as a recommendation in the study. There are some concerns. River Falls Apartments, that would be the blank, the white space adjacent to the right of parcel 1. They have Phase 1 under construction now. Phase 2 is going to need to come back to the Planning Commission. We have, so one of our concerns is that connector road, and where could we put a connector road and getting that installed before we get landlocked there as well. That's just two considerations from the planning staff that we wanted to bring to your attention through this. And I'm not for sure on the number of homes. I think it's about 180 townhomes. The applicant can answer more on that than I can. Any questions for me?
All right, any questions for Mr. Paradise?
There will be a traffic impact analysis that will be required before it comes back to y'all with the general development plan submittal.
All right, Commissioner Mackey, did you all have a question for Mr.?
The apartments, how are they getting out? Where are they connected?
They go to Frontage Road.
Yes.
So, okay, so I need you all when I open it up, I appreciate that, thank you. So we've, just, nothing we can do about the music, sorry about that. All we can do best is speak into the microphone. But that's also why I need you all to please come to the microphone or make all statements in the microphone, especially so those in Facebook land, your neighbors will also hear you. So we have received feedback that we need Commissioner Key to speak more closely into his microphone, and we will try to move forward doing so.
My apologies.
Yeah.
I was just asking whether apartments are going in. Where are they connected? And you
That-
said on Frontage Road.
Correct, sir, and that leaves them one way in, one way out.
So give me a visual. We got parcel 1, 2, 3. That's
It's to the right of parcel 1. It goes out to Martin. It is Parker Augusta LLC, that parcel. That is the parcel for River Falls.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Mr. Paradise at this time?
Mr. Paradise, can you back up the drawings? You had a topo and
Sure.
kind of explain the pitch.
And there you have, my understanding is there's wetlands on parcel 1, and they may run down the green. That's something that we may want, that the Planning Commission may want to discuss with the applicant to help delineate exactly where those are. And this may be one of those things where the applicant might want to work with or need to work with River Falls to get access for that access road through their community, with a partnership.
So just in layman's terms, on the parcel, the east side of the parcels with the pitch, can you kind of gauge the footage, how steep it is?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Applicant can probably give you a lot more information there.
Okay. All right. Very good.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Paradise before we hear from the applicant? Okay. Will the applicant please come forward again and share your name and address? And just to review the process, the applicant will make his or her presentation, any questions from the commissioners, and then we will open it up to the public. And all questions from the public, we will ask you to save and respond to when they finish.
Absolutely. Keith Lawrence, 211 Dixon Court, Evans, Georgia, 30809. One, thank y'all for letting us come forward. We talked with Tommy and Cully about this, and it was discussed to bring it as a sketch plan so we could get your comments. I think that's important for everybody here, that this is an open dialogue and a chance for us to really go through the details of a couple things I want to explain to you. I'm going to talk generally first, and then I'll kind of talk about the project itself. Mr. Paradise mentioned about the road connection. At the top of the screen, you'll see the light green that runs parallel with I-20. It basically hugs the entire property line, which makes the extension of the current alignment of the frontage road impossible, because there's, North Augusta is an impaired basin, and being able to get the stormwater mitigation credits for the wetlands is almost impossible on that side. So you can't, unfortunately, the road at the frontage road ends, it's curving up towards I-20. It needs to curve down into the project. And so the difficulty part about extending it, we looked at it and we had a solution until we got the wetlands. The other portion is the wetlands that extend off the right side of the pond. You can see they closed the gap, which is from the pond to the property line. That was originally proposed to the road until we got the wetlands on that side as well. So there's some difficulty in trying to bring the road through there. And I think that, we'll get into this in a second, but I think that these residents probably, if I had to guess, while they may not be happy with the traffic we have, I think they'll be less happy with the connection to that frontage road when it comes through there, because we can't control the traffic that comes on that side. We would only have the traffic that we generate. Now, that said, I think that the only way that that road connection can be made is if you see the tight corner below there to the left of the detention pond, is for the city to help us work with the apartments. Obviously, the apartments, they're zoned, they've got it, they've got to get their plan done. The only way they're going to be willing to work with us on there is if there's some pressure associated with the approval process of that second phase. We're happy to build it. We ran the numbers. We can run the road. We can extend to the frontage road. Practically, it's going to have to turn, and it's actually a third parcel. If you look at the bottom, at the very end of frontage road on the left-hand side where it ends, there's one other parcel that's in there. So it's two other parcels. It's not just the apartment complex that you'd have to deal with the owners of that. It's also that one at the end, because that road would have to make a left through the corner of his parcel as well to get the geometry. I'm a civil engineer by trade, a PE, and so we look at everything. We always want connectivity where possible, and I think that this is a particular one. Just with how the frontage road was done, it wasn't thought through with the wetlands in mind, to be honest with you. I think if it had, it would be turning into the project instead of turning up towards I-20, which it is right now. The other one is, as far as connectivity and extension of the frontage road, the parcel to the left of us is not zone PD. It is not currently zoned and anticipated to be commercial. And I mentioned that from the standpoint of if the planning commission or city council has visions of that being something different, I think that's probably something that these residents probably would also like to know about, because as far as it's currently zoned, it's not zoned for that type of use. So we would be the last use on the current intended plan. So covering that, and your question about the slope, generally on which is basically kind of the north side of the property line against apartments, you're about 9 to 11%. Give or take on that side. The slope on the left side is much steeper, and obviously we had no intentions of getting anywhere near that slope on that side. So, we're here to get your thoughts and kind of go through this. Tommy also mentioned to us where the realignment of the road comes into Knob Cone. We actually end up right in the right location for that realignment. We've taken that into account as far as the location of the roadway. I think that also helps some of these residents understand that there's a traffic light that will be coming at that place, at that intersection. Will help control traffic as well. And then, as far as the project, I know one of the questions I was asked to the applicant before us was price point. We're not looking to build, cheap townhomes. These townhomes will basically be $265 to $275 starting price point on there. So we've got a project we've done in Columbia County where the last one that went under contract was $298 for the same square footage, same floor plan. So these are nice townhomes. It's a nice addition. It's a way right now with the current economy. I think y'all mentioned, we talked about the price points and the materials and everything else. Most of our neighborhoods are hard pressed to come under $330,000, to be honest with you, on a single family detached house. It's extremely difficult. And I think that this house allows City of North Augusta to provide housing for people that want a first-time house, to be honest with you, as well as move down that don't want necessarily a large lot. I do agree with you. Don't get me wrong. I love a big lot. It's just there's only so many so many buyers that are gonna be just like you and I, to be honest with you. There's other buyers that don't want the maintenance associated with it. So, you know, a couple things, you know, we've got 47.1% open space on there, open space and green space. Tommy, can you flip to the color master plan? This is important because I think everything except the park at the front, the dark green that's in there is not going to be graded. That's all left just like it is. So that's, you know, trees, you know, basically except for some thinning as necessary in the detention pond that's shown in blue. The light green would probably be the graded area, and all the slopes on those will be reforested, including in my package that we submitted. It shows what a planted pine can look like in 4 years, and we reforest all the slopes except that are outside the lots. We call it kind of bringing in the development scar, so I think that's important. I'd encourage you guys to seriously consider that for all developments, to be honest. We do it in every one of our neighborhoods. I think it's the right thing to do as a developer to basically and you know, bring back in that development scar and make it to where you have the homes, but you don't have those unsightly slopes as well, you know, when you get done with it. The other thing we do on these is this in the narrative also describes that all of these homes will be tied into a structured drainage system. So what that does is it alleviates a lot of the problems with the city inspectors and erosion control, which means the drainage from the roofs and the yards all go into a drainage system and get off the grass. So roof drains obviously tie directly into the drainage system and then flow to a storm system. It alleviates the chance of erosion control and minimizes the damage that would be associated with that. Does that make sense, Mr. Bigger? You look like you get it. Okay. So it probably adds $1,800 to $2,000 to the units, and I think that's money well spent. I think it also basically shows that we're not in here to build them as cheap as possible. We want to give you the best product we can associated with these. These are for sale units. They are fee simple. This is not any of the build for rent type stuff that you guys have heard. These are, you know, Tommy's first question when we were talking about it. These are for sale units to individuals. You know, I guess you could dance around that by not saying that last statement. So they are to individuals, built and then sold. You know, the other thing that this shows is the large buffer that's around this property. We are sensitive to the fact that there are a lot of large landowners that are on both the west side and kind of the south corner. The only place we have less than a 50-foot buffer is behind Mr. Shealy, and that's because he specifically did not want it. He wants to be able to see the sunset. He told Mac, who's here with me, he grew up watching the sunset and was disappointed when the trees grew so tall he couldn't see it anymore, so that was actually one of his requirements of us, was to make sure that behind his home he could see the sunset. He grew up on this property, his family property, so that's the only reason that it's there on there. But you can see that even though he required that, we still pushed the homes further away from him on that side. I think that this plan, compared to some other plans, you'll notice that there is green. These lots do not touch any outside property. It's always been something that we take great pride in, which is trying to minimize. We know we obviously do impact people, but we try to minimize the impact on here, especially when we talk about the west side of the property. You can see a great massive strip of green on that side. So that's a little bit part of the plan on there. Let's see what we got. And then as far as like I said, as far as the frontage road, if there's a way that the city can kind of arm twist the apartments, we have zero problem with making that connection. We just cannot do it on our property alone because of those wetlands. It'll take that corner on there. And if that's a matter of leaving the right-of-way established, as far as the plan that we bring to you, got no problem with leaving the right-of-way set up. That's not an issue at all. We want to be good stewards of the city. Mac is a longtime resident of the city of North Augusta, so we want to make sure that we do the right thing that's in there. You know, it's got an amenity. We're going to try to take, you know, low-impact walking trails for the fishing pond down there. It really tries to maximize the advantage, and while you'll notice that some developments don't, this has a tremendous amount of accessible green spaces, was part of our goal. So I know we got a lot probably of people to listen to, so I want to answer any questions y'all may have specifically.
I have one.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you mentioned a minute ago that there's a red light coming at Knobcone.
Mm-hmm.
When's it coming?
Mr. Paradise will be able to tell you that.
That is part of the Martintown Road Corridor Study recommendation.
But when's, all right, so
I don't have a date for you.
Okay, so I'm going to just kind of open up on this a little bit. So today I spent the day talking around town to people in control of the red light, so to speak, in control, and I couldn't get anybody to nail anything down. So I met with Bill Hickson today, and he said that they would look at it, but the city has to request it. So my question is I really want that light there. And I have fought for that light. You don't know because you weren't here, but I have fought for that light until it's ridiculous. And that's because I live by that light.
Sure.
And I see those kids coming out from school in the afternoons, and they are just lined up. Today they were lined up from Martintown Road to where you couldn't even see them anymore. So we need that red light.
Yeah, and like I said, as a civil engineer, we've done warrant analysis. I know the gentleman, y'all asked a couple questions about this. Every DOT has what's called a warrant analysis study, which basically is based on number of accidents, it's based on traffic, it's based on speed limits, it's a ton of criteria, and it's basically, it kicks out a number. And unless you reach that number, it's not accessible. I'd be surprised with the school traffic in there that you guys aren't close to it now.
Well,
School traffic generally makes a big impact.
okay,
on
well,
it.
Bergen Road just got their light,
Mhm.
and what they did is they did get the traffic study of how many accidents were at Bergen Road. I think it was 53 accidents had been at Bergen Road, so we got the light. So I'm just saying, like, I was told today by someone in the city that they are making a list of what they're most worried about at first, second, third, fourth time. But to me, when you said that, that's the first thing I wrote down that you said, red light. So I was wondering if someone has said something to you.
No, just Mr. Paradise, and it's also one that, you know, that we as a development have zero problem making a contribution to the red light.
You would make a
Yes, ma'am.
contribution.
Yes, ma'am. We absolutely would.
So we do need to make a note of that, because another
Yeah.
problem that was brought up to me today was money.
Well, it's
I'm
always a
kinda
problem
shocked
with,
at that.
it's always a problem with money, but no, I think that's all part of how this all factors in. You know, I mean, like I said, I think the frontage road is a difficult connection. I really do. I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm not saying we're not willing to leave the right of way so that it could be done by the city. But as far as, you know, if we weren't to do that, if we were not to do that road, we'd have zero problem with making a, you know, $120,000 contribution to that traffic light.
Okay, so I was also told today, I know I'm wearing you out on this light.
Oh, you're
but
good.
that light's got my attention. I want that
Sure.
light. Okay, so, I was told today that the lights that are at I-20 exit ramp on the Martintown, they're hanging on just a wire. They don't have the big, nice black arm and all of that. The reason they're just hanging there is they probably are gonna have to shift up and down a little bit because they aren't sure yet where they're coming in and coming out. So I said, can we have just a wire hanging there, like?
And it's a pole issue too. Those long arms that span those distances is an availability. It's about last time we heard about it was a different project. It was 16 to 18 weeks, just the delivery time frame on the arms themselves. So I know that we've all experienced in different businesses that you may be in different facts of life. COVID has affected the supply chain with everything.
Well, it's not just that, it's the money, because I was told that the light on the budget that we have for that light is $1 million is what it's gonna cost. Then I was told today 300.
Yeah, it's typically, depends on the road and that kind of work, it's typically in the 200 to 300 range.
And you're willing to pay half,
I said we'd probably be willing to do about 125.
125, so
Yes,
you
ma'am.
just went up 5. Okay, well, that's fair.
It's a better number.
And so we're going to move on to questions for the developer.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you.
And
All right.
that light has been a major issue.
Yeah, no, so I appreciate you sharing your concerns with the light, not just with the developer, but for the record and for those in the city to hear as well.
Any
All right.
other commissioner questions I can answer? Yes, sir.
I want to make sure that you and I were connecting when I was asking about the pricing of the other houses.
Yep.
Was not alluding to cheapness.
No.
I just want to have it on record.
Sure.
And also in North Augusta, we are trying to make sure that we have affordability. And so I was looking at more so
The bottom end?
the bottom end, more so than the top end.
Sure.
So I just
And I
wanted
think
to-
that's, the tough part is, I'll give you that same neighborhood, we started at 185 a year ago. Materials have driven it up to 298. So to your point, I agree, the difficult part about finding affordable housing is doing a quality development where you have a lot of things and still being able to reach the price point. It's something we struggle with and trying to figure out as well. I agree with you completely.
One more thing that I want to be on the record. I do have a large lot, but it's a two-edged sword. So I can see how folks now are migrating to less than a large lot.
It's a personal preference. It really is. We have them both ways.
I wanted to, can I say one more thing to him? When you said that you have all this green space
Yes, ma'am.
on that side, to me, that's a little bit unusual that's being done now, so I feel like that is
We're trying, and like I said, we realize that the residents that'll be come up here to share their opinions and their views on this, that we've tried to figure out the way to minimize as much of an impact. And like I said, this is what we wanted. So I'll be taking notes, and if I miss a question, please don't take it personal. Just please let me know, and I'll make sure I answer it.
Thank you. All right, so, thank you, Mr. Lawrence. So, members of the community, if you all could please come up, make sure that you share your name and address. We ask that you keep your comments for less than 5 minutes, and again, share new information and concerns for the applicant. I'm sure that Mr. Lawrence also does not mind hearing from you all later as well. But before we start that, let me take a second that we have received correspondence from Mr. Crowder and Mr. Murphy. So all the commissioners have seen it, and they are both with regards to the concerns around traffic and as well, I think, connectivity as well. Okay. All right. So members of the community would like to share your feedback from Mr. Lawrence. Please come forward at this time. Yes. And I was going to say, if there's anyone else that needs a microphone being brought to them, please raise your hand. And if, and fellow commissioners, if you all could help me see it, because we want to, again, make sure that everything is said from the microphone so that your neighbors can hear. And Mr. Lawrence can hear.
Barbara Sweeney, 79 Shoals Way Court. We live in Savannah Barony. My concern is that it seems in one way that we're getting the cart before the horse. Some of this stuff seems, I'm just I don't know what you all do, and I'm not a professional, but it seems like some of this stuff should have been studied and approved before we started construction. Well, we got 300 cars coming from the gentlemen that were here, the two gentlemen that were here, 300 cars coming onto Martintown Road heading south. Then we've got the apartment complex. We're talking about 18 buildings, 4 apartments each. That's at least 100 more cars. Then we've got the condos coming in, and that's 170 3-bedroom condos. We're talking 300 more additional cars coming onto Martintown Road. It's difficult as it is right now. It is a challenging safety issue for us to get out of Savannah Barony and to get onto Martintown Road. I mean, it's like you're taking your life in your hands. And I know we've got an additional light at the exit off of the I-20, but that really hasn't solved a lot, because people coming off that ramp, they don't have to stop at the light if they're coming south. They just keep coming. They have to merge and yield. There's a rise there in front of the filling station. So you pull out of Old Plantation trying to go toward I-20. First of all, you've got the big street light pole, which is hard to see around. Then you've got to inch out a little bit more, and then you've got to anticipate people coming over the rise, and some of them aren't slowing down. Our issue is of additional cars. Is there any limit as to number of cars within that mile and a half from Knob Cone back to I-20 into Bergen Road, and we're talking to Gregory Lake Road? What is that, mile and a half? Is there a limit to the number of cars that that stretch of Martintown Road can accommodate?
All right.
It's a question.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Sweeney. So we're going to answer the questions and discuss at the end. So, okay. I'm sorry, did you have anything else?
Yes, I do
Okay.
have.
Okay.
There is, all right, this 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is commercial? Well, I don't quite understand. And this planned development has to be a combination of residential and commercial. What kind of commercial? I'm still not clear on that. What are we talking about? What kind of commercial?
All right.
Does nobody know?
We're going to answer, discuss at
Okay,
the
got
end.
it. Okay.
Okay?
And so is there any more development planned other than this apartment and the condo development and this commercial, whatever that is? Is there any additional property that could be more residential and additional cars?
All right. Thank you.
Ken Crowder, 174 Riverwind. I did send you a letter you referenced earlier. And just to kind of echo what I said in my letter, my biggest concern, I am concerned looking at the apartment complex and the townhomes about the density, because I don't think that matches at all what's off of Plantation Road. Behind that, you have large lots and rolling land, and you even have an 80-acre nature preserve, and then you're going to jam a lot of housing in there. But my biggest concern is that the single access for that, both for construction and once it's done for 180 units or whatever it is Plantation Road, which is a very dangerous intersection. My daughter had a car totaled there. The people who lived behind us had a car totaled there in the last 5 years. There's a lot of wrecks there. As you come out Plantation Road, there's high land looking both ways where both of the fireworks stores are. And so it's just a difficult turn. Half the people, I don't say half the people, but a lot of people turn left because that's where I-20 is, and then some people turn right. And it's a hectic turn as is, and you're talking about adding more than 100% of all the houses that are currently off of Plantation Road to come off of that. And I understand what the developer said, that there's a plan down the road for something with knob cone and a traffic light. But we heard that, and I'm not exaggerating, 9-10 years ago from the city saying that's the plan long term. We're going to have Old Plantation tie into Knob Cone Road. And here we are talking about a development where you're going to have 180 townhomes with a single point to Plantation Road with, in the future there may be this traffic light. And I would say, and to echo what Barbara said, that is absolutely putting the cart before the horse. And I would, even at the sketch level, say we need to have a plan for that before we proceed to allow people to start grading and doing wetlands mitigation and all these other kind of things. You really need to not allow any thought of 180 cars coming off of Plantation Road. That would just, or 180 cars, 180 houses on there. I just, because you're adding the apartment complex on there, which I realize is, I guess, going to end on frontage road, which just makes Martintown Road that much more burdensome. So those are my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Crowder. Sweeney. Okay, is there anyone else like to come to the mic or needs the microphone brought to them? Thank you. Ma'am, you can come on, start down so that you can be closer when he's finished.
Dave Kirkle, 70 Shoals Way Court, Savannah Barony. I might be belaboring this, but the gentleman that just spoke, I think the problem we're faced with increased, but particularly increased traffic on Plantation Road, making a right-hand turn on the West Martintown. There's a slope coming up to the Circle K. You cannot see when you make that right-hand turn. So you pray and you make that right-hand turn and hope no one sees you. But what happens is, and it's no one's fault, you have traffic coming from either the signal light. Traffic is 45 miles per hour. You make that right-hand turn when you think you're safe, car comes up on you, blows their horn, wants to give you hand signals, thinking that you cut them off, but it's not their fault. We can't see. So I don't know how you can take care of that slope. That would help part of the problem, I think. Maybe put a big mirror out there, but keep the sun away from it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ma'am?
I'm Melinda Burkhalter, and I live at 1034.
Can you lean in a little
Lean
bit?
in?
Yes, thank you.
I'm not that tall. Okay. My name is Melinda Burkhalter, and I live at 1034 Old Plantation Road. My house is going to be right beside that mosquito bowl right there. I live right in front of that. So I'm real concerned about the commercial spaces, what they're going to be. Is it going to be like a Lion's Den or Adams and Eve? And then y'all come in talking about warehouses. Well, that's every nightmare I've ever read. Every detective book, they take them to the warehouse to kill them. I don't like that. And then the 4th of July, where I live, y'all, these people know. It is like, do we really need to go get milk, or can we wait till after the 4th of July? So my fear is that our road is going to become the 4th of July, 365 days a year, with all those cars, 180, let's say everybody has 2 cars, or that's going to be 360 cars. So that is my concern.
Thank you, Ms. Burkhalter. All right. Are there any other questions or concerns from the community before we allow the applicant to respond and then follow up with feedback from the commissioners? Okay.
Good evening. Van Monroe at 570 Plantation Drive. There's a lot of information to go over in this packet. There's a ton of information. It's traffic, it's zoning, it's mixed use or not mixed use, right? And so I would echo the sentiments that we do seem to be getting the cart before the horse in terms of the development before the road work, right? The road needs to be addressed and the safety issue needs to be addressed, right? The one thing that stood out to me as I went through this packet, and you can see I flagged quite a bit of information, but there's a future land use map in here. And on that future land use map, you're going to pull that up. There you go. The one on the left. So if you look at that, as I understand it, the road is going to go right through what's referred to as a low-density residential area. The connector road that's being proposed. Is that correct? And so in my mind, that is an encroachment of a high-density residential area into a low-density residential area. So by default, it's almost against the entire master plan, if you will, right? As I understand it, they have access down at the frontage road, and there's water down there. We know that the out parcels that will be sold, that they'll have to use that frontage road to get access in some form or fashion. So they already have an access. Granted, there might be some issues with water, but if they already have an access, it seems they need to figure out how to use that access. They can build over it if they need to. I'm sure there's special permits that they can get for that. The other comment I would have is earlier someone said that with the extension or the potential connection into Martintown Road there at Knobcombe, that I think the 220 units, somehow that would be potentially also connected with that road. Is that right?
So we'll answer, okay. I'm
not sure. Because if that's the case, we're not just talking about 180 units. We're talking about an additional, half or another 220 coming that way as well. So again, the current concern is the encroachment. I would ask one question too on the proposed plat that they have up there. there's an abandonment of the property line between Arthur Shealy's residence versus the subject property of mixed use up there. And I'm just interested, what does that mean, that there's an abandonment of the property line? And does that mean that he's going to pursue additional mixed-use development there? Or is that going to have to stay large lot, low-density residential? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Monroe. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay. And then, so I think we have two more. And then what we'll do is we'll open it up to the applicant, Mr. Lawrence, to respond. And I think there's some for Mr. Paradise to respond to as well. Okay, thank you.
I'm Diane Coney. I live at 1051 Old Plantation Road. And as much as I'd like to keep talking about the traffic issue, I won't berate it. I do want to say that I do appreciate the builder and the green space that he wants to do and that type of thing. I'm concerned, as you, with the traffic light. I would like to see a traffic circle go in there. To me, that's just another decision or discussion to be had, but it's not this one. The children, that really does bother me there. Martintown Road is going to be flooded. North Augusta is a wonderful town, but we are filling it up with townhouses and townhomes. And now we're going to build condos right below the townhouses. And then you got your low-density lots right in front of, right behind that. We just closed our road off to the National Preserve, where we were having 200 and 300, 400 cars coming down our road to visit that park because of COVID. And they were parking all over it and tearing up our road as well. So we've seen a lot of traffic up and down that road. Again, I'm not gonna belabor the point there, but I just don't want to see North Augusta turning into a major condo and townhome community, because this is such a wonderful town as it is. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Taylor Halls. Can y'all hear me okay?
If you could lean a little bit in,
Okay.
Ms. Hall. Okay,
There we
bring it
go.
up there.
My name is Taylor Halls. I live at 1129 Old Plantation Road, and I just wanted to come as a younger member of the community and voice my opinion, just to give y'all another perspective. But when I look at this, some of the things that come to my mind are, as we've discussed traffic, I won't spend a lot of time on that because obviously we've covered it, but when you take a right out of Old Plantation Road, and then if you're a high school student and you have to take another left to get to North Augusta High School, that's a hard turn to make for young drivers. Even with the addition of a red light, I think that red light will be coming off, I believe it's Knobcombe, so that'll be to the right of Old Plantation Road, so I don't know that that's helping if there's going to be students coming out of this new little neighborhood area. And then also I think another concern is how that will impact our schools, these new people that we're bringing in, where they'll be zoned and stuff like that. So I just wanted to voice my opinion, and I thank y'all so much for the opportunity.
And thank you, Ms. Halls. We appreciate you coming to share in particular today.
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm Rick Goley, 1060 Old Plantation Road. I guess first off, I'd say, I think these guys have done a pretty good job of this whole development plan. But I echo the concerns a lot of other folks have had. We're converting a very low density area into a very high density area with these two developments, between the River Falls and this. So my question, I guess, was when they do the traffic survey, is that going to include the impact of River Falls, and is it going to include Hamrick Farms? Will all that be baked into there? The other point I wanted to make, just to make sure everybody understands, the red light I think is a good idea. The connector to Knobcombe actually runs through my mom's yard. So, we don't really want that road going through there. Everybody else does, right? But unless she decides to sell that land, or unless that's condemned, that's not a done deal, right? So just want to make sure everybody understood that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Goley. Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, no.
All All right, good evening, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Thank you.
All right, Lauren Bridie Anderson, originally born and raised in Knoxville, Tennessee. I want to say on the record, let's go Vols. But I did move here from Tennessee. I'm invested in this area. I own the 1104 Old Plantation Road property as well as the 1130 Old Plantation Road property. My property actually backs up directly to where they want to develop. So one concern I want to raise is what's the potential impact to my property? I did hear him say it's going to be greater than 50 feet. Does that include any kind of hard barrier or something to make sure nobody trespasses on my property? I would like to understand what that looks like, as well as the potential property value. I've invested in this area. This is now home. So I just want to understand what the potential impact for myself as well as the rest of my fellow residents here as well. Thank you, and a comment.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, I think we had one other. Okay, perhaps not. Okay. All right, Mr. Lawrence, if you could come back up and, or Mr. Paradise, would you like to respond to yours first? And then and then Mr. Lawrence will let you, so you can go ahead and stand up and then, but Mr. Paradise, please respond to the questions that you should answer first.
One of the questions that I remember, I probably should have been writing them down. You'll remind me of the ones.
I got them all.
Yeah. The, you know, what else is planned out there, or can anything else come out there? You know, we don't have anything on the books. That's not to say that next week or tomorrow morning we might get plans or an inquiry for one of the parcels. We can't guarantee that somebody that owns 10 acres doesn't decide that they want to subdivide and meet the city's requirements for a subdivision. That's just their property rights. And when we get an application just like this one, we have to bring it before the decision makers for the decisions. And that's the role there. Was there any other ones?
I think I
me?
got everything.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Lawrence, thank you.
All right, I'm gonna go these, there's 9 right here, so I'll go through
I'm sorry,
them.
Mr. Lawrence is
I'm
speaking,
sorry.
so we'll have to let him. I want to have to keep order. We'll let Ms., if you could, Ms. Paradise won't mind answering your question afterwards, but we're gonna let Mr. Lawrence go ahead and
I'll be happy to give everybody my number,
Okay.
and email address,
Okay.
and talk to them afterwards. Again, I know, gotta look at y'all, but for them, I want them to understand this is not, we're not asking for anything at this. This is just basically to get everybody's input. That's what we're after right here. Ms. Sweeney asked about the type of commercial, and I apologize, I tried to write these names down as quick as, so if I mess up your last name, I apologize. I tried my best to write them down quickly as I was listing. She asked about the type of commercial, was it was gonna be something less than, I guess, what everybody would want around them. It's thoroughfare commercial, it's spelled out in your code. But however, we would not want anything like that, and if part of the application would need to limit uses, we'd have no problem with working with staff and also running something by you guys as well. We have no desire to put in, I think it was a Lion's Den or an adult novelty place. That would absolutely, positively not be anything we would want developed on a piece of property that we'd have. And could be addressed in the limitations of the specific uses of those parcels. So that was Ms. Sweeney's. Mr. Crowder talked about the difficult intersection and the difficulty of turning. I think that as we do the traffic study, they have to look at all that. And I know I'll kind of address them each individual one, but they'll be looking at that. They'll also be looking at all traffic that comes down the side and anything that they know about. So anything that's currently planned has to be taken into account in that study, because the DOT, it's also not just presented to you guys, it also goes through the DOT as well for their input on that side. And I apologize, I'm gonna mess this up. Mr. Kirkell was concerned about the increased traffic and not being able to, and because of the site distance down the road. So I think, again, that'll be something that'll have to be looked at. But I know we have one gentleman, and I know that if that's his mom's property, that would be impacted as far as the realignment. I'll skip to the last young lady that was here. The realignment, basically, as I've seen it, would be basically Knobcone and Old Plantation would meet at that point. That's at least my understanding. Is that correct? Okay. I'm obviously not designing that. I'm just going based on what I've been told on that side. Ms. Burkhalter was concerned about the detention pond being a mosquito pit. That's actually something, these will be dry ponds. That doesn't mean they don't keep water when they fill up, but it's not meant to be a water quality pond, which would contain water on that side. She was also, I mentioned on this, she was concerned also as well as the type of commercial limiting uses. That's absolutely not a problem. I think that anybody that wants to sit in front of you wants to request any kind of, again, we're not requesting a zoning change. We're just requesting a review of what would be a concept. But I think everybody owes it to their residents, constituents, and everything else to put something they would want next to them as well. I think that's important on that side. So we'd have no problem looking at that. Diane, I apologize. I didn't catch your last name. Condi, I think it was. Concerned about traffic as well. Traffic circle, as a civil engineer, I can tell you, we've got a lot in Columbia County. Generally, they're not on this type of traffic with this kind of 4 lanes and a medium, center turn lane. It would be very difficult to put a roundabout in the middle of that road. It would almost have to be a traffic light on that side. On there. And I want to make sure that everybody understands these are townhomes as opposed to condos. Condos are actually not fee simple, means you don't own the land. These are townhomes, so they would be fee simple. Condos actually means you have multiple people on the same parcel. So just to clarify that for some of the people here. Ms. Halls, we talked, she was questioning about the realignment of the old plantation along with the traffic light. Those will be done, my understanding is if that was approved through city council. I realize that you guys probably have more knowledge on that, although Joanne made it sound like you may not have as much knowledge on that particular aspect. I imagine somebody at city council does have some knowledge on that side. And then Mr. Goley had questioned about whether or not that would include Hamrick Farms and some other neighborhoods. We would include everything that we have. Obviously, if somebody hasn't turned something in, doesn't have any information, it can't be. But I think that's also why you have your traffic engineer that reviews these, so he makes sure that the consultant, we use AECom, which is probably does most of the studies in here. They would be directed to include those studies that are available, to make sure you can address the impact. And then Ms. Anderson, she was talking about what kind of barriers. The dark green is untouched. No, there wouldn't be any clearing of that whatsoever. Like I mentioned before, that's important to us on our side. Doesn't mean there might not be some thinning for some reason on there. I think I mentioned to you guys, Mr. Shealy's adamant about making sure he gets his view. And I understand. He said he grew up as a child watching the sunset before probably anybody in this room was here. If y'all know Arthur Shealy, he's been around a long time. But all the yards are fenced. And as far as property values, we do not see any of. I used to manage new homes for Maybom Real Estate. I'm a real estate agent as well as a civil engineer. And if communities are planned right and they have the amenities, they do not become a negative. When you look at here, when you're talking about somebody investing $265,000 to $285,000 for the size parcel they've got, they have a vested interest in the area as well, and they don't affect the property values negative. I think I got everybody. Did I miss any questions?
Hold on, you have to address, we can't do this. Hold on, let me say this. Let me, hold on 1 second, sir, actually. If you could, I was gonna open it up, for the commissioners to ask questions, and your questions may be answered during that time. And then if so, so Mr. Paradise will get afterwards, but
I got him. No, I got him. I got the questions, if I can answer his
Okay.
questions. I just missed them. I
Okay.
apologize. That's
All
why
right.
I asked.
So if you could have okay.
I do.
Thank
I've got
you.
them written down. I apologize. Arthur's property line is not going to be abandoned. That's not even part of the application. The only thing that's part of there is the drive through a corner of his property, which we've talked with Cully and Tommy. It's not being used for anything other than a road. So it's not a change in zoning. Arthur is going to stay in his house. So he is staying in that house on that property. So there is no change to his property, which is the odd polygon that's up there front on that one. Let me make sure, because Nob Hill Cone extension alignment. And then as far as access off the frontage road, that was the other one that the gentleman had. It was, and the other one was about the density between high density and low density. I think that when you look at this, we didn't zone the property. I'm assuming this was a blanket zoning by City of North Augusta at some point. I don't know that for a fact. I guess it would, because anytime you do PD now with the City of North Augusta, you have to have a concept plan associated with it in place. So my guess was this was always intended to be a similar type use from the previous visionaries that ran the City of North Augusta. And as far as access off of Frontage Road, I think that, like I said, we are open to making the connection if we can get some assistance to make that sharp right turn. That is the difficult part on that side. I think that's got his questions addressed now.
Okay. All right, commissioners, do you all have any questions? Commissioners, do we have any questions for Mr. Lawrence? Nothing else? Okay, and I actually, what kind of, so you talked about being open to limiting use for commercial. What kind of commercial development what types of, are you envisioning? So who would you hope to have?
I think they would be office warehouse type space. They would be uses compatible with being along the interstate. We're not looking to do many warehouses, if that's your question on there. That's not, that's not a use that we're looking for in there. It would be a use for somebody that wants the visibility and wants to be in that proximate location as far as, it's not going to be individual offices by itself. It won't be office buildings or anything. You guys have it pretty well spelled out, the kind of uses, and we can look through there and limit things that you guys have a concern. If you want to let Tommy know that you've got concerns in that specific area, we'll definitely want to sit down and look through all that with you.
Any other questions from the commissioners for Mr. Paradise? Feedback? Okay.
In the event he wanted to limit the use of the commercial, that's not necessarily binding, though, is it? How would we go about assuring?
This is a planned development. And with a planned development, you're basically setting up a zoning district for this. So you would put in there what was allowed, or if you said thoroughfare commercial, anything allowed in the thoroughfare commercial except X, Y, and Z, then X, Y, and Z would be prohibited.
Absolutely.
And that would be included in the ordinance that goes to City Council for the general development plan, and so it would be binding. Unlike an annexation or rezoning.
And just as a side note, I will tell you that I do think that you probably are missing a classification. To the gentleman's point up there, going from R7 to R5, I would consider something in there that does allow townhomes, that does not allow apartments. It's just as a side note. No, I'm saying for y'all to consider in your zoning ordinance, you guys have a gap. To do townhomes, you have to allow apartments if you do anything less than 40 feet. And I'm saying that it's kind of a catch-22. You'll see less R5s come through there if you limit that, which I know is everybody's, nobody likes apartments, generally speaking. And so I think it's something that you guys ought to consider. That's just a side note since we're just having an open discussion here.
All right, sir, if you would like to come up and make one more comment briefly, please.
I probably didn't ask my question very well, but the two questions are, and I hear what you're saying about Arthur's Stand, and I appreciate that. But on the drawing, on the plat, it shows an abandonment of that property line between the residential and the mixed use. Why? Okay, that's the first question. It's there. Second question is, the access road that you're proposing to put through the residential appears to be an encroachment onto the low-density residential.
A road in and of itself is not included in a zoning district.
So the fact that the development would be running a road through the low-density residential, by default, that development then isn't encroaching into that low-density residential with their road?
That's correct.
That's
correct. A road is not a part of a zoning district.
Okay, all right. So we're back to why is the property line being abandoned?
That's just, the surveyor drew that. It is not going to be abandoned. That would just be something that would fixed. It doesn't, whether, honestly, it is not going to be abandoned, but whether, because he's retaining ownership of that parcel. It's just this way the surveyor drew it. It was just a mistake. We didn't catch it on our side. But in either case, it doesn't change his zoning, whether it was, property line was abandoned or not, but it is not going to be abandoned for the record.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, so, sir, thank you. All right, thank you, Mr. Lawrence. You
Thank
have
you.
a seat. All right, so I'd like to open it up for discussion, anything that the commissioners would like to share with the developer. There's
I don't really have anything for the developer, but I do want to address all the people that came out tonight, and thank you for coming. It is helpful to see large numbers come out. There is a lot of development planned here. You know, the discussion for the parcel for the annexation before this, the Hamrick Farms across the street, you know, on the east side of Knob Cone, the Mackey property is prime for development. So there is a lot of potential opportunities for you to come and be heard in the future. And I encourage you to show up at Planning Commission. I encourage you to show up at City Council, talk to your council members, because it's amazing how many people will show up for the first time and not show up for the second and third readings that are required to get things passed at City Council. So stay diligent and vigilant and all those words. Stay informed with what's going on in your community, because it is important for us to see and hear what you have to say as we're looking at what's going on in North Augusta. So thank you for coming.
All right, so just want the community to know that as well. There was a meeting with us and City Council and the mayor, and so some of the things that you all talked about, which are traffic in aggregate. And so what happens here is that we have individual parcels, individual plan developments, different projects that will trigger traffic studies, but then there are also developments that are going on concurrently. And so we have also shared your concern about how does that look and what does the big picture of that look like as well. But again, thank you all for coming to participate. One of the things that we love about North Augusta is we love it, and so it is also growing. And a lot of that growth has been for good. And so we all have concerns and we all are excited about different pieces of that, but we appreciate you all sharing in a respectful way your concerns today, and we hear you and we thank you. And I don't know if there are any other.
My discussion right now is going to be really strange to a lot of you, but there are people in here that I can look at and we just kind of smile and laugh. But someone had said earlier, what's going on? All this is going on at one time. And I'm sitting here and I'm married to a Mackey, and Baranowskis are Mackeys, and the Goleys were Mackeys, and all of these people are Mackeys. And Arthur was raised with all the Mackeys. Arthur Shealy was raised with all the Mackeys. So I'm going to tell you what I think is happening here. The Mackeys never sell their land. They won't sell their land. But now they're all aging up. Doris is here, and she's got her stand on things, Doris Goley. But what I'm saying to you is what's happening is all of the Mackey land is now passed down, and the older ones that were in control of everything have passed away, and so there is change coming, and it's all in one spot. It's all in one spot because they had, from Doris's, where Diane lives, was the dairy farm, and Mr. Mackey was the dairy farm in my yard, and the dairy farm went up to their house. So it was dairy farm after dairy farm after dairy farm. So they're all putting this land now. People are calling us. I'm getting a call on my phone every day from some man that keeps saying, when are you going to call me back? When are you calling me back? So what I'm saying to you too is we have concerns. I have concern about that traffic. I have concerns about lining up Knob Cone with Plantation and trying to do some things to make it where it's not chaos. I don't want to live in chaos, okay? So, and I'm not going to be against this. I'm not saying this in a negative way, but I'm filling you in on it. True North Church, I can't get out of my driveway on Sunday morning. So I'm already dealing with traffic and noise every day, almost now every day. So things have changed on Martintown Road, and we might as well figure it out and how we're going to make it work better. And we need to have nice homes, and I will say that Keith Lawrence has presented something, and I've written notes all over his little map here, and I've got what he said, when he said it, how he said it. So he's trying. For him to sit here and say, I'll give you $125,000, that tells me he's trying to make it fit. He's trying, okay? So we're trying to make it fit at our house. I mean, I live in the middle of all this in a house that was built in 1841. So it's different now. It's not what it used to be. It's just not what it used to be. But we can protect it the best we can. That's what we're trying to do. And I was very frustrated sitting here because I thought, why am I even here? Why am I even here? This is all family business. But we're just trying to make it where, I want to make it where it's not chaos. That's my dream.
Thank you, Ms. Mackey. So at this point, if there are no other considerations or comments for the developer with the sketch plan review, Mr. Paradise, if you could go to staff report, please.
Yes, ma'am. We have two reports. One is the Development Code Committee is meeting tomorrow to start the review process on some of the chapters. Hopefully, the next meeting will go back to in-person meetings instead of virtual. That would allow more input and better transparency. The other thing is the Georgia Avenue Traffic Calming and Pedestrian Study. We have received authorization from SCDOT. We went through the selection process, receiving the RFPs. They were reviewed by the review committee. We passed that on to DOT. And DOT has given us the authorization to negotiate with a consultant. And in fact, I had negotiations with that consultant today. And the next step on that will be to get some figures back from the consultant and see if DOT will sign off on us moving forward with it. Either that or getting the numbers right before we submit it to DOT.
So again, want to thank you all for all that you all do, because with this growth and evolution, you all stay busy. And so we thank you for your work. That being said, may I please have a motion to adjourn? Second?
Second.
Okay, hearing no objections, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.